Welcome to the Radiology Vault, an open repository for radiology educational content designed for learners and medical professionals. Presented by the Michigan Medicine Department of Radiology.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bill Sherk. I'll be giving a 5-minute primer on the anatomy of branch vessel obstruction and aortic dissection. Our focus today is malperfusion and malperfusion syndrome and aortic dissection and how different anatomic configurations of the dissection flap can contribute to different types of branch vessel obstruction. We'll talk about the Michigan classification system that organizes branch vessel obstruction into static and dynamic categories, and then correlate with imaging case examples. So why is it important to recognize branch vessel obstruction on imaging? Well, time is critical for these patients. Our in-house guru of aortic disease, Dr. David Williams, says time is gut, meaning that tissue and organ necrosis in these patients can happen extremely quickly. Aortic dissection can already be difficult to diagnose as its symptoms overlap with many other disease processes. And then when malperfusion is present, this can further complicate the care of patients with aortic dissection. If we can identify possible branch vessel obstruction on imaging, we can alert our colleagues and direct expedited management. So definitions: malperfusion is a complication of aortic dissection and reflects inadequate blood flow to end organs because of dissection-related obstruction. Malperfusion syndrome is the clinical manifestations of tissue necrosis and functional failure of vital organs secondary to end-stage or late-stage malperfusion. In the following slides, we'll talk about how malperfusion happens anatomically and categorize different types of branch vessel obstruction by their pathophysiologic mechanisms. So the Michigan classification shown here divides branch vessel obstruction into dynamic and static subtypes. Both can be present in this mixed form. In dynamic obstruction, the branch vessel itself is not dissected, but the dissection flap in the aorta drapes over the branch vessel ostium. And this can be variable with blood pressure. It's not infrequent to see patient have evidence of dynamic branch vessel obstruction on a CT when the patient has a blood pressure in the 200 systolic, but then see relief of the dynamic obstruction during an endovascular treatment when the blood pressure is aggressively controlled. In static obstruction, the flap enters into the branch vessel. So we can subcategorize different types of static obstruction based on presence or absence of reentry tears, false lumen thrombus, or even true lumen thrombus. In the mixed type, it's a combination, both dynamic and static obstruction. As mentioned, dynamic obstruction involves draping of the dissection flap over the branch vessel ostium. In this patient, we see development of dynamic obstruction in the span of about 2 hours. On the left image, the true lumen, which is oriented on the left of the aortic lumen supplying the SMA, it's open, it has a ellipsoid configuration, and the SMA therefore is not obstructed. Quickly, the patient's blood pressure elevates. He becomes more symptomatic. He develops symptoms of gut ischemia. And on the right image, we see now that the true lumen is collapsed and the dissection flap is draping over, if not even protruding into the proximal SMA, which is now compromised. So here we see a severe case of dynamic compression in the SMA. The true lumen of the aorta throughout the visualized segment is slit-like. The dynamic obstruction involves additional important branches as well. On the bottom right, we see the true lumen as barely opacified at the aortic bifurcation, which contributes to lower extremity ischemia in addition to the SMA ischemia. Static obstruction shown here can be relatively confusing. Think of it as a fixed obstruction due to continuation of the dissection flap into the branch vessel. So sometimes there's an additional hole in the dissection flap within or near the branch vessel that allows distal communication between true and false lumens. And this usually means the branch has okay flow distally. And this is diagrammed by my poor man's sketch on the left. On the right, we see not so good scenarios where distal flow may be compromised. When there is no reentry and the pressurized false lumen is pushing on the narrow true lumen of the branch vessel, or there's more rigid false lumen thrombus, or even in worst case scenario, true lumen thrombus, the branch vessel may be compromised. Let's break these down. So here's an example of adequate reentry. Even though the SMA is dissected here, there is a reentry tear. And when we measured pressures comparing aortic root to distal SMA, they were nearly the same. Note that on this patient's CT, when the patient's blood pressure was in the 170s or greater systolic, he was experiencing true lumen collapse at the level of the visceral aorta. This was not the case during endovascular evaluation when his blood pressure was controlled and the true lumen was restored. Here's a case where there's no reentry. So inadequate reentry. The false lumen here, along with the existing atheromatous changes, which you can see demarcated by the arrows on the anterior aspect of the aorta, is narrowed. and it's narrowing the thread-like true lumen that is supplying the right renal artery. Therefore, the right kidney is malperfused. When there's false lumen thrombus, sometimes this narrows the adjacent true lumen in the branch vessel and compromises antegrade flow. And this is the case in this example. The false lumen in the right iliac arteries does not have a reentry tear, the false lumen thrombosis, and the thrombosed false lumen then compromised the adjacent true lumen. When we measure pressures here, there is severe malperfusion of the right leg, which manifested clinically as absent pedal pulses and mottled lower leg. Finally, true lumen thrombus can act as a static source of obstruction for branch vessels. So when the true lumen obstruction is significant enough, the stasis in the downstream vessel can lead to thrombosis within the true lumen. And honestly, this is a very difficult situation to manage during endovascular treatment. So in summary, remember that the types of obstruction in malperfusion syndrome can be dynamic, where the flap drapes over the branch vessel, static, where the flap enters the vessel or its origin, or a combination of the two. And certainly, as we won't discuss here today, the type of obstruction can influence treatment options.